EA. You know, I was making a video about the whole snowy escape thing with the shrines, and before I can post that video, this shit comes up where on Origin, when you go to buy a new pack, you know, the example was My First Pet stuff, but I've seen a couple comments that are saying it happens with other packs too. But when you go to buy it, it says that the Star Wars pack is required. Oh, holy shit. Oh my god. Okay, so with my first pet stuff, my so with my first pet stuff, uh that does require cats and dogs. And when you look on the bottom of the pop-up window, it says cats and dogs. So what I think is going on is that it's supposed to pop up saying cats and dogs is required for the full pack, and there's some kind of code mix up where it puts the wrong pack in that slot, which, you know, that would be reasonable, but it's pretty suspicious because there are people saying that this is happening with other packs that do not have any, that are not connected to any others. Cats and dogs and My First Pet stuff are the only ones I know of that are connected like that. So I kind of that's what I kind of think that it that window comes from, but that is pretty suspicious that the error happens to be this controversial pack that is not selling very well, and nobody wants to buy it. And you know, I honestly, if this was any other company, I would be more willing to think that okay, it's a coding error, but this is happening with other packs that have no connections to each other, and I wouldn't put it past EA to try this shit, because oh boy, that pack got a shit ton of backlash. So I'm not surprised that sales are not what they were wanting. And you gotta get the profits up for your Disney deal or whatever. So, oh my god, that's really scummy, honestly. Like, even if it is an error, um, apparently support is completely ignoring all the questions and all the reports about it. Like, apparently, other players of other games are getting their questions answered and like in the same thread, I guess, as the simmers, and and EA is only responding to players of other games and just completely ignoring anything about The Sims and anything about this problem. So, if it was a real error, then I feel like they would be all like, "Oh no, that's we're," they would respond and be all like, "Oh no, that we'll get on that." But them trying to completely ignore this, that looks suspicious as hell. So that's more evidence to me that this is on purpose. And if somebody, a lot of simmers are aware that you don't need the Star Wars pack to play with hamsters, but like there's still a good amount of people that they can deceive with this into thinking that, oh, okay, I need this, so I'll buy this one too. You know, like, a lot of people are still gonna fall for that, and that's really wrong, and that's really scummy. And fuck you, EA, because there's the like, I can kind of see where this would be an error in the code where they have the slot is supposed to say cats and dogs, but it just happens to say this specific pack that they would definitely try to trick people into buying. So that's pretty suspicious to me. So yeah, like, if you are like a new player, the only packs the only stuff pack that requires another pack is fuck, what's it called? I just said it. My First Pet stuff. It requires cats and dogs, not that Star Wars shit. And at the time of me saying this, there is no other pack that requires another one, so like, don't fall for that, and don't buy this pack unless you actually want to. You don't need it. And it's actually really disgusting that they're tricking people into thinking that they need this. Like, that's actually kind of making me angry. Because, okay, first of all, um that's kind of a scam, and spending unnecessary money right now in the economic state of right now, like, that is extra scummy, because like, these are trying to get people to buy the shit they don't actually need. And you can argue, oh, if they can afford to buy a game anyway, then what's the problem? And like it's still a scam, and it's still disgusting. Like, even if you can afford to buy like even if you can afford to buy a video game, that doesn't mean it's okay for someone to try to scam you into buying more than you actually need to. That's fucking disgusting, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. So yeah, so that's a big problem. And oh boy, this is not looking good for you, EA. You just keep falling on your dick. But yeah, so 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 about the shrines, um, I agree with taking out the rising sun thing. There was an article of clothing where the pattern was similar to the rising sun symbol. It's not the same pattern. It like very clearly is not, but it's similar enough for people to notice. So, like in that case, I kind of agree. Like, yeah, you should probably take that out. Um, but I do kind of disagree about the shrines. Like, the argument is that because um, the Japanese forced the Koreans to convert, then the the interaction of bowing at the shrines is a reminder for Koreans of this painful part of their history. And like they do very much have a right to feel that way and to be reminded by that. But at the same time, those those shrines that are traumatic to them, those Japanese shrines are in Korea because Japan put them there, and they are from Japan, and within Japan they are a neutral part of that culture, and it's only in the context of those shrines being in Korea that makes it a traumatic reminder. So I kind of disagree. Like, this pack is centered on Japan, so it doesn't really make sense to me why members of a completely different culture have more say about what goes in the Japanese pack than Japanese players do. And I think a big part of this, I think a lot of the problems that you run into when you're, a lot of these kind of problems are because of the shift in the Sims franchise from play with life, create other people, create this original story, to replicate yourself and your life and put yourself in the game. So representation becomes more important when the emphasis is shifted to playing yourself in the game. And that makes it a big problem when, like, for example, with the skin tone problems, when people cannot really do that and they can't really represent themselves in the game. I mean, it would be a problem already if it was if the focus was still on, like, play with life, create an original story. Like, it would still be a problem that the skin tones have issues and people can't, and people are lacking these cultural things in the game. That would still be that still would be a problem, but the shift to create yourself makes it a bigger problem when these things happen. So when you cannot create yourself, then people get more upset. And, like, that's also, so that leads to you kind of have to do these cultural, like, country specific packs. And, you know, they just had the Hispanic, was it a pack or an update? But it was like, it was a lot of, like, Hispanic stuff, and that's a very wide general group of people. There are a lot of different countries under that umbrella. So people complained that it was too Mexican, and they did not feel represented. And, like, that, like, if your goal is to make it so people can represent themselves, then yeah, that is a problem. And you should be doing, when you're doing a wide group like that, with, like, Hispanic or Asian or, like, or African, or, you know, like, you need to research several countries, you need to do a lot of research and include a lot of different stuff. So, like, it is sort of a better idea to do country specific, because then you can really include more from that culture. Because when you have, like, a wide umbrella, and you have, like, maybe 50 items that you can add, like, let's say you have each specific country can only get maybe 3 to 5 items that are, like, specifically them, and, like, then you're gonna have people complaining, like, oh, it's not enough stuff that is my stuff. So like, that just kind of opens up this whole, like, a whole lot of work. And when you do like a one country thing, like the Japanese specific inspired pack, you can do a lot more, you can have a lot more of those specific items, you know, and really flesh it out and make that group feel represented more accurately and more genuinely. And I think that's good. but but then you have this Japanese pack, and keep in mind that this pack is specifically Japanese. It's not generally Asian. Like Sims 2 Bon Voyage had a lot of mixed Asian items. But this pack is specifically Japanese. So it seems a little bit unfair for like you have these Japanese players that are going to be more represented, but then you have this other group that's like, oh, wait a minute, I have a problem with this. And they do have all the right in the world to have those feelings. But at the same time, this isn't really about them. It's not for them. It's about Japan. And I would understand this a lot more if it was like if this was a Korean pack and they had the Shinto shrines there. I would definitely agree, like, okay, yeah, that's a really painful part of their history. Maybe you shouldn't put that in there. But in Japan, those are neutral structures. That's a neutral part of their culture. So, and it kind of seems like, so you have this one group that they're going to get this representation, and like, but another completely separate group complains, so then they lose part of their culture out of this pack. Like, they can no longer play themselves as accurately, and it is less accurate representation. And if that's what you care about in this game, then that's a problem. Like, not to excuse anything, but like, it kind of, it seems unfair to Japanese simmers, and I have heard, and I have heard that from a lot of people, that like it's not really fair that this other group gets to decide what's in this group's pack. And like forced worship, that if you set the precedent that, okay, we won't include anything that is connected or reminiscent to forced worship, that's kind of a big issue, because first of all, um, so you have, in Create a Sim, you have hijabs. I'm 99% sure that those are in the game. And like, I know for a lot of people that is a very positive thing for them, and they wear it of their own free will, and they feel empowered, and like they are not forced to wear it. But in making this argument that, okay, we can't have anything connected to forced worship, then does that mean that you are that you should take the hijabs out, I think that would, I mean, now that they're in the game, I think taking them out would cause like a lot of backlash. But like you have to acknowledge that there are still a lot of people that are forced to wear it, and it is not empowering to them, and it's not their own free choice, and it is connected to forced worship. Like, the same thing can mean two very different things to different groups. Should we take the hijabs out? I think I think no. But then like that's opening up this whole thing where it's all like, okay, what religion does not have a history of bloodshed? Should we just take all religious items out of the game? What does that mean about, would there be no Christmas trees? You know, and if you have no Christmas trees, no menorahs, no Kwanzaa candles. I'm sorry, I don't know what those are called. Um, no no hijabs. Uh, I'll think of more later. But like religion and references to religion are already in the game, and like whether or not you should only represent the secular parts of a culture, it at this point those religious items are already in the game, and that is part of a lot of people's lives and part of a lot of people's identities. And if representing yourself in this game is important to you, then what is the solution here? Because if you, in appeasing the Korean players, you're taking away this part, you're reducing the amount that Japanese players can play themselves, and you're setting the precedent for, okay, maybe it would be better if we just if we did this to, if we took all this other stuff out, and then all these other groups couldn't play themselves, and then they're gonna make backlash and they're gonna be upset about that. But like, what is the solution here? Because in solving one problem, you just open up the door for all these other problems. And you know, like, how do you solve this without any backlash, and with, and like, if you're all like, okay, like, no bowing at shrines, but we'll keep all this other stuff in, we're not taking anything else out, then how fair is that? And also, like, that kind of sets a double standard of, okay, we're only the complaints of some groups are going to be listened to, and only the complaints of some groups matter. And like, what complaints matter to the company, you know? Like, what group, if there are two minority groups, like in this situation, that have conflicting wants about this game pack or this stuff pack, who do you listen to? Because they're both Asian, they're both, you know, like in the US, Asians are a minority still. Um, like, are is there like, um, is there some equation of what what ethnic groups you should listen to over another one? Like, how do you how do you make this fair for everybody now that you've shifted the importance to, okay, represent yourself in this game. Like, if that is important, then it opens up these bigger problems of, okay, how do you do that and keep it fair for everybody? I kind of feel like that's a fool's errand where you're not going to, there's always going to be somebody who's not, who is underrepresented, some group that's not satisfied, or there's always going to be somebody you have to appease over somebody else, and how do you make that fair? I think that is a problem with this shift in the Sims franchise. And I think that's where a lot of these problems, I don't think it's where these problems come from, because they were kind of already there, of like, oh, I can't really, the the game does not have this stuff that's my stuff. Like, that that complaint kind of already existed, but that complaint becomes bigger when the root of that complaint, the ability to replicate yourself and your life in this game, that complaint becomes larger and more important and more necessary to address and run around trying to fix, because of the shift in how you present this game and what this game is supposed to be about, And I don't think, I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily that, like, there is this shift, because, like, it has led to more people being able to play themselves, and hopefully, like, that kind of, I would like to see that continue with some other groups, like like there is the ethnicity aspect of it, but there is also, like, you have disabled players where the games still don't have, you still can't, like, have a wheelchair or anything, or like, and I know disability is kind of a hard thing to do in the game. Like, there are a lot of types, and, like, it's very different even among people of the same type. So, like, you're also not going to satisfy everybody. But, like, I think if your emphasis is going to be on representation, and it's important to you that people can accurately portray themselves, then these are things you kind of have to run around trying to please as many people as possible. And, like, at the end of the day, there's always going to be there's always going to be some complaint, somebody feeling underrepresented, somebody left out. And but it is kind of impossible for a game to be able to represent everybody in every single group of people, and you just kind of have to get the general stuff as best you can, like. So I don't know, you can't. It seems kind of futile to run around trying to please every single group and trying to make everybody feel represented. But at the same time, I do see the value in that, and as somebody who is in a couple marginalized groups, like, I do genuinely enjoy being able to have that option in the game. Like, you know. But yeah. So yeah, it just opens up this whole can of worms about, okay, who do you listen to over which group is more important to listen to than another group, and what's fair for everybody. And in this case, I am of the opinion that it is kind of unfair to the Japanese simmers, because, like, these are two different countries, these are two very different cultures, and this one item of the shrine, that means two very different things for them, and that represents two very different things for them. And if your pack is about this one, then this should be the focus of your research, and these should be the people that you listen to about it. That's, and like, that's what I think about it. And obviously what happened to the Korean people was horrible, and they have every right to be upset and be reminded. Like, I am not at all excusing what happened or saying that it's not really a big deal, but context is important here, and what I said before, one thing can mean two extremely different things to different groups, to different people. And it's not really about Korea in this case. This is Japan centered. So yeah, I'm not trying to dismiss anything. I just am wondering what precedent is this going to set, and what are the effects of that going to be? And when you have a conflict like this with these two groups that are both they are both minorities in the United States, and EA is US based, and we're working off of the social the social order of the US right now. That's what I'm talking about. Then who should you listen to? What's fair here? And I don't this doesn't it it doesn't seem exactly fair to me. And like yeah, but yeah, EA is not EA's kind of got themselves in a pretty bad spot right now, which is very amusing to me. And so and also if you're wondering, uh, I'm cosplaying Chuuya Nakahara from Bungou Stray Dogs. So I'm taking applications for a Dazai or is Chuuya shipped with any women? I don't think so. The only one that's around his age is Higuchi, and she likes Akutagawa. I think Gin is too young for him, because I'm pretty sure I read that she was Akutagawa's little sister. So that would... And Akutagawa is just... You know, I looked it up, and Akutagawa was 20, and he seems a little bit younger than that. Maybe it's the teenage angst. But yeah, like Akutagawa is like old enough to be shipped with Chuuya, but any younger than that is kind of weird. I'm not a fan of it. Kind of gross. So but yeah, I don't think he's shipped with any women. Well, I like Yoshino, so a Dazai or a Yoshino. The single and bisexual during a pandemic. Lucky me.